Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you're new. I know it has been like another year again since I've posted, and I apologize. Dealing with a son at 16 is a little difficult. If you hear any screaming in the back, that is him. He's watching his favorite movie and he gets very excited. But today, kind of woke up, as you can see, fresh out of bed, and so a couple different people have been asking me about like postpartum after birth. And then like getting more so into like feelings and what you have to deal with and all that type of stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I don't feel like when you watch videos about postpartum that people really get into, I guess you could call it like the gross details. But I'm just going to kind of go over that with you a little bit. So I'm not, this is going to be a very raw video. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to be like, oh, your little area down there, like, we all have it, we all know. So, in the beginning of postpartum, they will actually take you, so you will give birth in your birthing room, and then they'll wait a couple hours till, like, your baby gets settled, all that. They'll bring the baby to you, and then they will take you to postpartum, which is basically your recovery room. I had to stay 3 days. Normally, the hospital will keep you 2 days and then send you home, but I'll get into that. And so what they'll do is they'll transfer your bed to postpartum. You'll get situated in the room, and instantly right after you get situated, what they did for my hospital was they called our room and they brought us like a big feast of food, because for 2 days I couldn't eat while I was in labor. And so they brought us this big feast of food, and so they have to do a couple tests. So I still had my IV in, which, if I did not say in the last video, hurt worse than birth. They put it right here on like your bone, and I almost screamed. It hurt so bad, guys. But anyway, so they bring you this big feast of food and they'll let you eat, and then a few minutes after that the nurse will come in and she will have to do a couple of tests. So one thing that they do is they push on your stomach, which for me was really weird because I got so used to my stomach being so big and like hard and like not being able really to push in on it. So she'll push in to see how much you're bleeding, because after birth you bleed up to 6 weeks. So they give you like these big old granny panties and like big pads and everything like that are basically diapers. You're wearing like a big person diaper. And they'll push on your stomach, they'll check, see how much you're bleeding. For me, so it's different for everyone. For me, when they also, God, I need to stay on track. Okay, so after they check how much you're bleeding, they'll make you go to the bathroom. And they actually, for me, they didn't make me go like right after birth. They kind of waited till I had to go. Some hospitals will make you go right after birth. But so they checked me, and then of course I had to use the restroom. So she has this little cup, or whatever nurse you have, whether it's a girl or guy, they have these little cups, and they have to measure out 3 times after birth the amount of urine that you're giving, because it's also going to measure the blood, because the blood is non-stop. It's not like a period where it's off and on. This is like flowing blood. So she did that, and for me, it didn't burn. I know, like, it's different for everyone. Some people say peeing burns. Some people say it didn't. I think my doctor just did a very good job at stitching me up. If you did not see my last video, I had to have an episiotomy, which is where they take, I guess it's like a baby knife. I don't want to say the wrong word for it, but they take it and they have to cut through your vaginal tissue and your vaginal muscle, basically. It's like a little piece of skin. And that did not feel good at all, and the stitches did not feel good at all, but got it done. They put me on pain meds instantly, and so they measured out urine, measured out blood. So for the bathroom for postpartum, they give you this big bag full of like things that you can use, and a couple of the things that I found the most helpful, that I'm sure every girl does, but like I was so beyond thankful for them because I'm very sensitive. And so they give you like this little like it's not like a spray bottle, it's kind of like a squirt bottle. It's like a bottle, and then the cap has like 3 holes in the top, but you fill it with warm water and you keep it on this little ledge that's by the toilet. So every time you have to use the restroom after birth, there's so much gravity down there after like pushing and everything. It's very, very sore, and so when you pee, sometimes the burning comes from that, sometimes the burning comes from the episiotomy. Some girls rip and they don't get stitched up, so it can burn from that. So the spray bottle or the squirt bottle, whatever you want to call it, really helps because you just kind of squirt warm water on yourself and it helps get the blood off, it helps you go pee, it helps the stinging to not hurt so bad. They give you dermaplast spray. I hope to God I said that right. I don't have any of it anymore. My son is over 7 months pregnant. All this stuff is gone. But they give you this spray, and every time after you use the restroom, you'll spray it on yourself, and like obviously you'll spray it on your vagina. And you know, it's a really cooling effect. It just kind of numbs you up and it feels really good. And then the other thing they gave you is Tux pads. So what those are actually for is like for hemorrhoids. Some girls get them, some girls don't. It's from pushing the lining in your rectum breaks. And so they're like little, I'm sure all of you know what hemorrhoids are, but they're like little bumps that will come on your butt and they will go away after time. So those are actually what Tux pads are for. A lot of girls actually use them and they put them in their pad just to kind of lay against like your labias, because it's a very cooling effect and you're very hot and hurting down there, so it just helps give you a lot of relief. So you'll definitely want that. One thing this is very gross. Okay, one thing that you're always going to want after birth, like no matter how like anything went, is a stool softener. Because I kid you not, whether it's right after birth, whether it's 3 days after birth, you're going to want your poop to be soft. Because if it is not, it is the most painful thing in the world. I will tell you from experience, it hurts. I refused the stool softener, and I was like, no, I won't need that. I regret it. I do. Like, that was very painful. So it's very hard the first couple days after birth, obviously, to stand up. They'll have you laying in this hospital bed because you'll be on and off breastfeeding, on and off sleeping, you know, changing diapers, that type of thing. And that was probably one of the hardest parts for me because of the hard labor I had, was getting up out of bed. So what they actually did for me, instead of having me sit up and try and stand up, because I physically couldn't, I started almost screaming. It hurt so bad. They had me like laying basically all the way back, and then they would have me roll till I was almost falling off the bed, and then that's when I would put my feet down and stand up. So I never actually like sat up. I like laid, rolled, and then kind of stood up, you know. But yeah, so they will make you wear these big pads, and then over a 2-week period of time you'll go down to a smaller pad, and then you should be back into regular pads and then stop bleeding. For me, I actually didn't bleed 6 weeks. I bled close to 10 weeks, and they said for whatever reason, I don't understand how like any type of hair matters, but they said every redhead that they have seen and helped give birth to, they always end up bleeding more. And for me, that was really scary, because people who know me in my past and about like my eating and my blood and all of that know that I became anemic like very early on in life, and I've always had to be on like an iron supplement, stuff like that, because for my periods I lose so much blood, and for after birth I lost so much blood. So I was just kind of like, once it got to the 6-week mark, and like I was expecting it to kind of slow down and it didn't. I think I called my doctor probably like 3 times. She got really irritated with me. She's like, it's normal, you'll stop. And I'm like, okay, it's not stopping, you know. And then, okay, so let's get into feeling. So for those of you who know me, I'm not really going to touch on this as a super emotional subject, and know my past, know that I have dealt with a couple different things that have not been the best in life. That's all I'm going to say. And you guys know that I was challenged. And so for people who have, I'm trying to say this in the most not offensive way, because I do not want to offend anybody that watches this video that may have depression or think they may have depression. It's not a light subject whatsoever, so I'm not just trying to brush that off. Please do not think that. But for anyone that has had anxiety or depression or even some sadness in the past, the postpartum feelings are like 10 times higher for you. And so that really worried me because I know the things I've went through and how I have felt. And so the first probably 2-3 weeks that Jace was home with me, you know, everything was good. I mean, I was very sleep deprived the first year of your child's life. I kid you not, look up on any like research website, anything, you will lose up to 6 months of sleep. So when I say my life was literally eating, breathing, sleeping, feeling, thinking, everything was, I breastfed, I pumped, I went to bed. Breastfed, pumped, went to bed. That was my night for a good month and a half to 2 months. And I was so sleep deprived. There was a couple times, thank God for my parents. Like, I know, like, you know, you're 16, you don't agree with them, you get into arguments, all that stuff, but thank God they were here, because there was a couple times, like, they had to get Jace because I just was not waking up. I was so sleep deprived, I wouldn't even hear him cry. So there was a couple times where we would switch off nights, and at this point, I had to go back in for a consultation because it didn't seem like I was producing enough milk. And what my doctor told me was, I apologize to tell you this news, but you are going to underproduce, so you won't be able to strictly breastfeed. And that hurt me really bad because, like, from the start, I was like, gonna breastfeed, this is gonna be great. But no, so he has had, you know, half and half breast milk and then formula from the start. I am officially done breastfeeding now. I was not able to produce up until a year. And so, yeah, so he's been on formula. So we would switch off nights. Like, they'd take a night, I'd take a night, and they would let me sleep. But that comes into effect with how you feel, is if you get enough sleep or not. And so it got really hard for me probably the first 3 months for eating. Everybody that knows my past knows I didn't have an eating disorder, but I was only eating 1 meal a day. I lost a lot of weight. I was sad. But that's in the past. That's behind me. But it comes into play when you give birth, because they tell you any issues that you have had in the past can come back up with a postpartum depression. Now, and they say 9 out of 10 girls get it. It's nothing to be afraid of. Like, it goes away. Like, this isn't like, we're not talking depression like you actually really need help and like you're going through really hard things. This is more just kind of like a feeling down, and, you know, you'll get over it, but it's just something that happens with labor. At least it did happen to me, and I kind of brushed that off. I was like, it's not going to happen. You know, like, I'm doing so good. I'm happy, like, I'm dealing with Jace, and I'm still getting a little bit of school done and all this stuff, which by this point, like, I think it was around 1 to 2 weeks before I gave birth, I was put on bed rest because Jace almost scared me with miscarriage twice. He tried to come at 28 weeks and 3 days, and then he tried to come at 26 weeks and 5 days, I believe. And they said, you know, if he comes now, like, he's not going to live. So those were very scary hospital visits for me. Anyway, so it was around, Jace turned around 3 months old, and I just realized, like, I started feeling really down. And, you know, I am a very patient person when it comes to most things, but I started getting very angry very quickly. And so I went to my mom because, you know, I was a little worried. I was like, look, I'm just not feeling right. I don't like this. I don't want to go back to that place, but I do not like where my head is at. And I think a lot of people around me kind of noticed it because I was not as happy, excuse me, as I used to be. And yeah, I was really sad. And I mean, like, guys, like, if you're, like, a new mom or just gave birth or anything like that, like, it is not something to be ashamed of. It happens to most girls. I know in the moment it can be scary because you're like, why am I feeling sad? There's no reason to feel sad. Like, you will burst out in tears out of nowhere. Like, I was in Walmart grabbing diapers and I just started crying. It happens. And it's, like, so normal. And so, you know, it was only a couple months that I had to deal with that, and the doctors, of course, said, well, you know, with postpartum, you can always get medication for it. Of course, I said no to that. I try, at least for me in my life, to stay away from medication because I personally feel like if I need medication, like, to help me be happy, that just doesn't seem right to me. You know, like, I shouldn't need help to be happy. I should be able to, you know, figure it out on my own without all the other chemicals and all that stuff. So it only lasted a couple months, and then, you know, as I started sleeping more, as people started forcing me to eat more, you know, it got a lot easier. So I know I always used to get mad at my mom all the time for, like, always pushing on me, like, Jasmine, you need to eat. Jasmine, here, would you like me to make you this? Jasmine, please go grab this. You know, like, as snacks and food and meals and all this stuff. And I'd get so pissed at her. I was like, Mom, I'm not hungry. Like, I'm fine. Like, please leave me alone. And there was a couple times I got into really bad arguments with my parents, and I probably will regret what I said. But yeah, I mean, feelings can go a bunch of different ways. Some people feel super happy. Some people feel super sad. Some people get angry. I kind of had a mixture of, like, the sadness and the anger. And I do feel like the anger came from some personal situations I have going on. You guys know in my past video I did not really state much about his dad or his family because that's a question from a bunch of Illinois friends that I keep getting because I'm originally from Illinois. I moved to Texas. Like, where's his dad? Like, why don't you post pictures with him? What's going on? And as of right now, I'm not going to say anything on that situation. It's really just something that my family and his family has to work through. And I mean, if you know me personally, or if you're here, like, in Texas and you're a close friend or a close friend of his, you might know a little bit about the situation. But other than that, right now, it's very personal. It's not a subject I'm going to touch on or, like, put a bunch of information out there. I'm sorry to the friends who keep getting mad at me because I keep, you know, like, pushing it off. Like, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's nothing. I am hurting from it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do feel like that brought on some of the anger because, you know, in a perfect world, any mother is going to want their baby's dad in that kid's life. And if you still love the person, or if you still have a connection with the person, or, you know, if you see yourself together, if you guys had a good relationship, whatever the like, subject may be, you're obviously going to want that person there. And when you can't have that person there, it's very hard. There's a lot of things that you would want that person to be able to experience. There's a lot of hurt in your heart, not just for yourself, but for that person. And, I apologize. It's difficult. So everybody thinks, like, parenting's super easy and being a single parent is easy or being a teen parent is easy, and I salute all the moms out there that don't have their babies' dads in their lives, or that I salute all the dads that are out there that don't have the moms, you know, in their lives. I salute all the single parents. I salute all of the teen parents. It's not an easy thing, and it takes a long time to be able to figure things out. So, yeah, but I think I'm going to stop this video here. Went over some stuff about after birth, went over some stuff in the hospital, went over feelings, and, you know, touched on a subject that everyone has been asking for. So, thank you. I apologize for being gone so long again. I will try and put up more videos soon. I am going to be getting back into school, so it just might be here and there. It's not going to be super consistent, but I will try and put out content when I can. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.